From CBS News Bay Area, this is the Evening Edition.
Now at 6, a recall effort in Contra Costa County. Why one group is calling for the removal of District Attorney Diana Becton.
And rebuilding trust in the American dream. How volunteers in Silicon Valley help seniors to keep their homes today.
Later, a live report from the Vatican as Pope Francis is laid to rest.
Live from the CBS studios in San Francisco on this Saturday evening, I'm Brian Heck.
And I'm Andrea Nakano. First, it was San Francisco's District Attorney Chesa Boudin, then Alameda County DA Pamela Price. Now in Contra Costa County, organizers are looking to oust District Attorney Diana Becton, who they say is too soft on crime.
Today in Oakley, the group held a press conference explaining the recall efforts as they kick off signature gathering. And Dahlin has the story.
Families of victims are the ones behind the recall. They include the family of murder victim Alexis Gabe. They accuse the DA of protecting criminals, and they want her gone. Recall supporters say each signature represents a call for safety, accountability, and justice.
I agree that she should be recalled. I think to have these criminals walk, and she's not doing her job. Voter Wade Rutnick is eager to sign the petition. He believes District Attorney Diana Becton is too lenient on crime. As a citizen of Contra Costa County, I should feel safer than the criminals that go out there and prey upon our citizens. And for someone to let those people go without even a slap on the wrist is a slap in the face. Recall organizers also accuse Becton of making empty promises to victims' families and failing to be transparent. The Alexis Gabe family remains frustrated that the DA's office declined to file charges against the mother of the murder suspect. They believe she knew about the crime and helped dispose of the body.
We want to stress that our motivation is not revenge. Our sole aim is to see Diana Becton ousted from office and to bring an end to further suffering for families of crime victims.
Other supporters say they're fed up with Becton's progressive policies. Voters in San Francisco and Alameda County have recalled their progressive DAs in recent years.
I am standing here today because I never want another family to endure the pain, the heartbreak, and the injustice that mine has suffered.
But Becton's supporters say she's not the same as Chesa Boudin or Pamela Price.
She stands up for victims. She's aggressively prosecuting violent criminals. She's asked for more money from the Board of Supervisors to fund these efforts, which we've granted.
Becton declined an interview, but County Supervisor John Joya says her leadership is partly why crime is down.
The allegations that this group is making against Diana Becton just don't match the reality. The most recent Department of Justice data shows that violent crime in Contra Costa is at an historic low.
But Rutnick disagrees, saying Becton is part of the problem, not the solution. When the system doesn't correct itself, it's up to citizens to, make the correction. Saturday was day one of signature gathering. Organizers need to gather 73,000 valid signatures to put the recall on the ballot. They have 160 days to collect those signatures.
Well, we've got ourselves an interesting April rainmaker out there. We've got rain right now, which is what we're seeing on the virtual set. I've set this to the last hour. And what you're seeing is this light, persistent band of rain that is slowly marching its way now down over the city. That's barely even going to be enough to measure. Take a look at the time lapse from today. That's really a great example of what this has looked like. That's from the top of Mount Diablo. Every once in a while, a shower comes through, and then it clears out, and you get a nice long break. But there was one point in today which was pretty interesting. It happened around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock this afternoon. So now we're going back. You can see the timestamp on the bottom. Look at San Rafael. Look at that little bullseye right there that showed up over South Marin. Between like 1 p.m. and 3 p.m., that was a pretty impressive little band of rain, which shows up when you look at total accumulations. You got almost 3/10 of an inch of rain today in San Rafael. Everybody else got a couple hundredths of an inch of rain. We have a little more to go. So what I want to do is just leave you with this one quick little preview. It's going to stay like this through tonight. On again, off again, light showers. Way more time when you're not getting rained on than you are. Even that little band we went over the city. That's the Futurecast depiction from now to midnight. But tomorrow morning, early, the showers are going to pick up again. And that's where we'll start this story in the full forecast. I'll show you how we should probably expect a little more noticeable rain for very early Sunday. But it's not going to last long. I'll show you what that looks like, and there's a pretty noticeable warm-up coming as well. I'll see you with the full forecast in a few minutes, guys. Back to you.
All righty, Darren, we're taking a look at stories around the Bay Area. At San Francisco's Crissy Field today, the Parkinson's Foundation held its annual Moving Day Walk, an event designed to spread awareness and raise support for Parkinson's. Former WCBS radio personality Jeff Bell, who was diagnosed with Parkinson's a year ago, talked about having the disease.
It's been humbling to realize there's a lot out of my control, but it also has been a powerful reminder that there is a lot in my control. I can choose how I respond to this adversity in my life, and I've been able to be a part of an organization that's helping other people, and that's helped me immensely.
According to the Parkinson's Foundation, about 1 million people in the United States are living with Parkinson's, with nearly 90,000 people diagnosed each year. Andrea?
Well, Brian, the Green Apple Bookstore in San Francisco is just one over 30 independent booksellers in the Bay Area holding events in celebration of Independent Bookstore Day. But they're facing some competition from a major online retailer, Amazon, holding their book sale this weekend, which has some local booksellers calling foul.
We're not just here to sell you things. We are here to support arts and literature and the people in the community, and that's something that Amazon doesn't have and will never have.
Independent Bookstore Day is an effort to remind customers the benefit of having indie booksellers in the neighborhood. One customer shares why he prefers going to a bookstore over shopping online.
It's more fun. It's a little more romantic to go into a real book location, talk to the people there, order something.
The owner of Green Apple Bookstore is one of the founders of Independent Bookstore Day, now celebrating its 12th year.
Well, in the South Bay today, when it comes to fixing things around the house, what happens when you can no longer do it yourself?
Well, some have called on the hundreds of volunteers in San Jose who are helping seniors fix and stay in their homes. John Ramos explains.
Owning a home may be the American dream, but maintaining it can be a bit of a nightmare. So all across America, some lucky homeowners were getting help from complete strangers to stay in the place that they love.
You know, it's a Saturday. Everybody could be doing something else, you know, on their day off of work, but they're here. They're here putting their time into her home.
Claudia Chavarria is in her 80s now and has lived in the house on Clayton Road in San Jose for 55 years. For a long time, her husband Jimmy worried about the roof and signed the couple up for a program called Rebuilding Together Silicon Valley, which helps repair the homes of low-income seniors.
And we've been here since, and we never roofed the house. So this roof had 20 holes on it.
And he knew we had applied for the program. So he's been waiting patiently, and he would say, are they going to come to replace my roof? Are they going to come to replace my roof? And we said, you just got to be patient, you know. And so he passed away November 22nd. And right after that is when we got the phone call that they were going to come replace the roof. She was so excited. And I said, well, he's seen everything happen now.
Now the house has a brand new roof, along with most of the plumbing fixtures inside. And on this day, a group of volunteers from the tech company Applied Materials were swarming the house, repairing window screens, planning new landscaping, and most importantly of all, giving the entire exterior a fresh new coat of paint.
My job as house captain is to get those volunteers together, and it's always hard beforehand. Everyone says, oh, they'd love to help, but then it's, you know, everyone's got their lives. But once you get through all that and you get a solid 20 to 30 people that to show up here physically, it just, everyone leaves here with a good feeling that they did something good for their neighborhood.
16 homes in the South Bay were getting makeovers, each one adopted by a different service group or company that provides both the funding and volunteer workforce to get the job done. The program's executive director says the homeowners selected are at an age and income level that would prevent them from being able to care for their home's upkeep.
We really work to help people stay in their homes. We want to keep their homes safe and healthy and allow people to age in their homes safely and thrive so that they're not displaced because they can't keep it maintained.
Fantastic. I mean, she's not going to have to worry about maintenance on our place for quite a while, and you know, it's just going to take a load off of her mind as far as worrying about her house. So.
But worrying about the house was Jimmy's job, and now Claudia knows he can rest easy thanks to the kindness of strangers.
See all these people here when I came out. I cried a little bit. I was crying because I was so happy, so happy.
There's a saying, the most important thing you can give someone besides your love is your labor. On this day, Claudia got both.
Well, coming up, a live report from the Vatican as mourners around the world react to the funeral of Pope Francis. We'll be right back. Taking a live look at Vatican City and St. Peter's Square, today was the funeral for Pope Francis, with millions around the world mourning the death of what many refer to as the People's Pope. CBS News' Tony Aiello joins us now live from the Vatican. Tony, first question for you. It's already Sunday there, but I imagine the events of the day on Saturday made a really deep impression.
Andrea, they did. The quiet emptiness of St. Peter's Square right now is such a contrast to the funeral rites held earlier on Saturday. You know, the Pope's coffin was humble, but the pageantry that sent him to his final rest was majestic and filled with deeply meaningful moments. For Americans, some pride perhaps in that young American woman, Kelsey Gussie, who read from the Acts of the Apostles before the beautiful homily by Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re, who called Francis a pope among the people with an open heart towards everyone. And I did have a chance to join the crowds watching the motorcade carrying the coffin to the burial site. People were somber, but there was great fellowship. They were making the sign of the cross, some people quietly applauding.
Tony, what is on tap for the days that are leading up to the conclave now?
There will be a series of public masses and private meetings, and these give the cardinals a chance to make an impression on the public and on each other. Tomorrow's, I should say today's, it's Sunday here, in just a few hours, in fact, there will be a Divine Mercy Mass here on the square. It will be led by Cardinal Parolin of Italy, who is viewed as a leading contender in the upcoming conclave. People will be watching that very closely. How is he received? How does he comport himself?
Now, the Catholic Church does operate around the globe, and right now, you just mentioned him, but it doesn't really have a leader. Who is temporarily in charge?
Well, this is interesting. An American cardinal is basically acting as steward of the church right now. His name is Kevin Farrell. He used to be the Archbishop of Dallas, and then he took this role here at the Vatican, a role known as the Camerlengo. He makes important administrative decisions, but he has to avoid any kind of papal prerogatives, such as he won't be declaring any saints or weighing in on doctrine. It's strictly administrative. He'll also oversee preparations for the conclave, which is likely to begin the week of May 6th.
All right, Tony, still just a time of mourning, but we really appreciate your report from the Vatican. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Well, we've got ourselves some rain here at home today. In case you hadn't been outside today or noticed, look what is just knocking on the doorstep here. This is the last hour of radar. That's not a lot, but it is rain that's about to move over some of the denser population centers of the Bay, the city, the immediate East Bay. It's coming over San Pablo Bay. At this point, Napa got a little bit of rain out of this. Ordinarily, we'd look at it a well-organized line like that and go, oh, that's a good line of rain that's put together. But in this case, I think it's just enough you notice a few light showers. What happened over the last 6 hours in Marin was probably even more impressive than what we're seeing here. If we can take a moment and let's counter what we've got on the virtual set, which kind of really places this for us in terms of geographic extent. And let's put it up in the monitor just for a somewhat closer look, because you see that line there, able to pick out a little more detail. Where you get into the bands of yellow, that's where you will notice the rainfall intensity pick up a little bit, but we're still talking about maybe 1/10 of an inch of rain out of that. What was far more interesting happened between about 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock. That was an isolated cell of heavier rain that put down about 3/10 of an inch of rain so far over parts of southern Marin. Look at the rainfall totals on the map, how they play out in between like noon and 3 o'clock today. Look how uneven that is. Got about 3/10 of an inch of rain from that cell in San Rafael, and everybody else in general's got, just a couple hundredths of an inch of rain. But what matters most is what is about to happen next. So let's time it out. We've got the light rain that we saw sitting in that band by the way, just another look at it. There's that band coming on shore now. We're going to say goodbye to that, and we're going to play forward the Futurecast, which will take us from now through about midnight. And after we clear this main band of rain coming overhead, there will be isolated showers lurking, none of them really terribly widespread, and maybe even missing the majority of the bay. Until we get to technically tomorrow. We're going to pause it right there. That's midnight. Notice how the showers are starting to show up a bit more? Let's take that forward, and we'll go from midnight, this is midnight on Sunday, to back 10 in the morning. And in between about like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., we see some more widespread rain move across the entire bay. So there's your takeaway on this. You get a little bit of light rain now, probably a little bit of a break between now and midnight, and then in the early morning hours, there'll be another band of rain that's going to move overhead. By that point, I think this system will have really lost most of its energy. The kind of energy that could deliver, like that cell we saw in San Rafael, likely doesn't happen tomorrow. Here's the reason why we would say that. If we look at how the system's put together, water vapor shows you the circulation overhead, beautiful counterclockwise spin. We're kind of in the middle of it today. Everything's moving that way, which means we are now getting left behind. We're not going to be right in the middle of this thing. You can take all that energy and push it out of here tomorrow morning, but a better way to look at it is to show you what the Futurecast depiction would have to say. A few spotty showers tonight. Let's get into tomorrow. Most of that rain's going to be in the Central Valley. Most of the energy for the isolated brief downpours by then will already be in Nevada. So we're going to see the energy wind down. I don't anticipate a repeat of what San Rafael saw early this afternoon anywhere else, but you will still get some light rain. A little band of it now, and then again, early tomorrow morning. That's why Sunday's got some clouds in it here for the terrarium, but by the time we get to like 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, we're done. Then we clear things out. Look how much warmer you are by Monday. And then we've got some low 80s coming your way for daytime highs by the middle of next week before we cool back down again a little below average as we approach next weekend.
From CBS News Bay Area, this is the Evening Edition.
Welcome back. There is a new public database that's tracking which research grants are being cut and canceled by the Trump administration, specifically those at the National Science Foundation and the National Institutes of Health. And with us now is one of the co-creators of that database, Dr. Noam Ross, who is also the executive director of the nonprofit Our Open Sci. And I appreciate your joining us. Are you in New York tonight?
Yes. Good
Okay.
evening. Good to be with you, Brian.
Yes, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Tell us about the project and tell us about how you are tracking the database.
Well, we've been tracking the Trump administration's termination of projects in America's scientific enterprise for almost 2 months, and especially in the past 2 weeks, the cancellations at the National Science Foundation. And we've been doing this because we think the American people and the scientific community need to know the extent and the type of the damage that the administration is doing by terminating contracts, promises, to the American people of the type of scientific research and education that Congress has passed laws to invest in.
Let me ask you this. Do you know, I would think it'd be a matter of public record, but do you know how many cuts have been made? And have you parsed out why they have cut the programs they have cut?
Well, we see patterns, but we don't know what's going on inside these agencies because the administration is very secretive. So at the National Institutes of Health, they've canceled at least 800 grants, probably constituting almost $4 billion of scientific research that is now being wasted because half of that has already been spent on projects that are now not going to be finished. And the National Science Foundation, just in the past week or so, at least 500, but there are rumors of up to 1,000 grants that have been terminated across the country of over $300 million. And the things that they're canceling are especially focused on the things that actually broaden access to science to all Americans. Congress has mandated the National Science Foundation make sure that America's scientific enterprise is accessible to people all over, that we all can benefit from it. And what the administration doing is really killing the programs that make science less elite rather than more.
The stuff that I've read from the Associated Press has Elon Musk saying we're cutting programs that make any reference to DEI initiatives. Have you seen that in the programs that are being cut?
We've seen a lot of that, though I don't understand why he calls DEI like it's a bad word. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are really American values. They're what's on the Statue of Liberty. They're what's in the Declaration of Independence. But what that really means is they're cutting off opportunities to people, especially young students and early career researchers who are from middle and working class backgrounds and are involved in scholarships and fellowships and programs at places like Western Florida University or UT El Paso or San Jose State University in California that really serve the working class and are the engines of bringing people into the middle class of America. These are the programs that help build new scientists and give people the experience that they can use to become scientists or engineers or business people who can make use of that scientific knowledge.
NSF has a budget, I think, of about $9 billion, and I think the cuts have totaled to about $300 million. So is it that big of a chunk that we need to be that worried about it?
Well, it's $300 million basically in 1 week. We don't know how much more they're going to be cutting in the coming months. And even more importantly, these are all broken promises. Why would anyone join the scientific profession, come to this country, move across the country for jobs that are actually not that high paying if what's going to happen is the contract or the promise that the government made for the project that they want to invest in, they're just going to claw back at the whim of an oligarch and his programmer minions who want to cancel your program because they don't like what it says, even though it's been rated the highest one by all of your scientific peers.
Does this ever strike you as odd? I mean, Elon Musk has a degree in physics. You know, you could make an argument that he's got some scientific DNA. So is this ironic to you, or what's your take on why he's doing it?
It's way beyond that. It's not just that all of his wealth comes from companies that are based in science. Those are companies and technologies that were invented by investments from the National Science Foundation, from the American government's investments in new technology startups. His wealth is due to the American people's investment in scientific progress. And now he is cutting that off for everybody else. So it's tremendously ironic. And I don't think he even understands what he's doing.
Noam Ross, our OpenSci Executive Director. Noam, thanks very much for joining us on your New York night. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Brian.
Andrea?
Brian, meantime, the Trump administration is now launching an investigation into UC Berkeley. The Department of Education claims that Cal failed to report hundreds of millions of dollars in funding from a foreign government, but didn't specify from which country. It comes after the president signed a series of executive orders focused on universities that he views as liberal adversaries. Well, it's a message no American citizen expects to receive, a notice from the federal government telling them to leave the country. But as Gio Insignaris shows us, it's exactly what happened to a woman in Los Angeles, and she wasn't the only one to get the letter.
Los Angeles immigration rights attorney Harriet Steele was stunned when she opened her email late at night and saw this, a message from the Department of Homeland Security. The first sentence says, quote, "It's time for you to leave the United States."
I think the language is quite stark and quite threatening, especially at the end, saying, "Do not attempt to remain in the United States. The federal government will find you."
Steele is a U.S. citizen, born and raised here in Los Angeles, and immediately feared the message was a mistake intended for one of her clients. It wasn't. Steele says the message says a lot about the Trump administration's current policies.
In this climate of fear, chaos, clients, their families feel afraid, and this makes their lives harder. This makes our work all the more challenging.
And Steele isn't alone. Immigration attorneys across the country also reportedly received the same notice in recent weeks. All American citizens, all mistakenly targeted.
If people are living in fear, if there's distrust between the government and communities, that ultimately doesn't make anyone safer.
For now, it's unclear just how many citizens have received these notices by mistake, but Steele says if the intent was to intimidate attorneys to stop representing migrants, she won't.
In other news, it is Autism Awareness Month, and law enforcement in the Bay Area are making strides to understand how to handle calls involving people on the spectrum. The Fremont Police Department became the first in the country to adopt an emergency system called Code Joshua. Kevin Coe has more on how the new system works.
Meet Brady, a 13-year-old from Fremont who loves the outdoors. His parents, Beth and Eric Coons, love him more than the world.
Parents are always worried about their kids. Always. Especially parents of kids with autism. It adds an extra level of worry.
Eric and Beth were born deaf, but it's never stopped them from enjoying life as a family. Brady is deaf and autistic.
Since my son was little, I always worried about him. I felt I had to be with him all the time to watch him and protect him. But now that he's getting older, he's 13 now, and he wants to be more independent. He wants to be out in the community more, and I can't protect him forever.
Beth and Eric worry about Brady's interactions with others, including police, in the event of a traumatic episode.
We worry about how other people who don't know about our son, how best to approach him, how best to talk with Brady, and how best to de-escalate the situation.
The couple found out they weren't alone in their fears. After some research, they came across Code Joshua, a partnership between Fremont-based nonprofit Joshua's Gift and Fremont Police. Mispa Brown-Rich is Joshua's mom and the co-founder of Joshua's Gift. Her son struggles with sensory overload, which can be triggered by loud noises in public.
It may trigger a meltdown, it may trigger aggressive behavior, and that could be misinterpreted. One of the biggest fears is if law enforcement gets involved and they're not trained on recognizing the behaviors or the characteristics of a person on the autism spectrum, that could probably lead to a more unfavorable or more deadly outcome.
Families can register with Code Joshua to submit detailed information about their loved ones. If they encounter law enforcement, the information is passed along to officers, who then know what to look out for.
This is the crux of what we need as first responders. What are an individual's triggers or sensitivities? And then some of the expected behaviors too. Should we expect that an individual will be kicking or hitting us or biting? And understanding that that's kind of normalized behavior.
Emergency contact information is also available, so loved ones can be reached immediately. For Beth and Eric, that provides comfort they didn't know was possible.
With Code Joshua, we feel safer, and it's okay that the community is going to support him.
Fremont Police officially initiated Code Joshua in April. So far, about 200 families have signed up.
And coming up, San Francisco's sewage fines, sending money right down the drain.
Gunk, garbage, dirty water, other things.
Let's not go so far down this road. Why the Supreme Court sided with the city to loosen sewage regulations when we come in.
Tomorrow, the Bay Area is capping off SF Climate Week. Throughout the week, leaders from across the country, including former Vice President Al Gore and Representative Nancy Pelosi, have come together to come up with solutions to fight climate change. This comes shortly after the Supreme Court sided with San Francisco, making it harder to regulate raw sewage releases. John Ramos spoke to a local environmental group who says the ruling has national implications.
You might not expect that it would be environmentally conscious San Francisco that would be asking the Supreme Court to change, and some say weaken, federal law when it comes to dumping raw sewage into the nation's waterways. But then it may be a case of whose ox is getting gored. San Francisco has what's known as a combined sewer overflow system, which means rainwater flows into the same pipes as water from toilets. Dana Lurie lives in a houseboat on Mission Creek and says in a heavy storm, when the treatment plants get overwhelmed, her neighborhood turns into an open sewer.
When we have overflow during the big storms, those open up. It's such a sight to see. It's a nasty cauldron of gunk, garbage, dirty water, other things. I don't want to be seen on TV saying those things.
It can get pretty smelly at times, and gas bubbles can be seen rising up out of the ooze.
It's methane, I assume. And you can also see the sheen on the water. But that's from all the industrial stuff that's been going on down here for 200 years.
The city has federal permits to release wastewater from its East Side treatment plant near Dana's home, as well as the Oceanside plant near Ocean Beach, which sends its effluent out into the Pacific. And it is that permit that landed San Francisco in a Supreme Court fight with the Environmental Protection Agency.
The permit conditions basically said that the city should not do something that causes or contributes to a violation of water quality standards. And the city's argument was saying, EPA, you've got to be more specific with us. You've got to tell us exactly what we can and can't do.
The city complained that no matter what actions they took, if water quality still suffered, they could be subject to massive fines. Dennis Herrera, the head of the city's Utilities Commission, told the High Court, quote, "The EPA is basically saying you can't pollute too much, but we won't tell you what too much is until after you've already done it. That's untenable," end quote. The city says it could cost $10 billion to make all the fixes to its system, raising people's sewage rates up to $9,000 per year. But UC Law School professor Dave Owen thinks that may be an exaggeration.
You know, no matter how liberal the politics of the city are, when the city feels like its budget is under threat, it will push back. And so I think that those are the city's motivations. And again, they're not crazy motivations. The city does have to worry about money. These are expensive fixes. But it also, I think, was at times misleading in the things it said about exactly what was at stake and how much money was at stake and what was causing that money to be at stake.
In its March 4th ruling, the conservative court sided with San Francisco, saying the EPA must now spell out exactly how cities and other entities must operate their systems rather than just judging the end result. Eric Busher is an attorney for Baykeeper, an environmental group currently suing San Francisco for the sewage releases in Mission Creek.
When this ruling came down, did it feel like this was going to set a national precedent?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of terrifying from where I sit anytime the Supreme Court is looking at something that says versus Environmental Protection Agency or the subject is about the Clean Water Act, because they have national scope and will dictate what happens throughout the country.
And he says it seems ironic that liberal San Francisco would be the one arguing to limit the meaning of the Clean Water Act.
But the whose ox is getting gored question is exactly right? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, the ox getting gored is the bay and the people who depend on it.
That would include Dana, who's simply not sure what to think anymore.
I mean, I see the practical side, and then I see what should be done. Their sewer and their water shouldn't be all running out into the same thing. How you retrofit that, I don't know. But, I mean, we've got to live with this the way that it is.
And the whole country will have to live with the court's ruling, as the EPA's task of keeping the nation's waterways clean just got a lot more complicated.
Okay, we got to pick up this forecast. Some of the more noticeable light rain coming right across the city. This is live radar updating on the virtual set. Look at it on First Alert Doppler up here, and what you see is this pretty notable band of light yellows. It's just about to move right over the city. It's not heavy, but it's certainly more than what you've seen over the city for much of this time frame from the system. How much longer is this thing going to be around? You still have a second half of your weekend to salvage if we can without thinking about rain. I'll show you how much of Sunday you should plan on this. I'll see you with that after the break. Well, picking up this conversation where we left off, just as we were heading into this commercial break, we were showing you the rain on the radar. That's the scene right now over the city. That's from the camera on top of the Mark Hopkins Hotel, top of Nob Hill, looking out towards the north. See a little bit of Angel Island out there. You can see Fisherman's Wharf in the foreground. Few drops on the lens there. Let's go to SFO. Got a few drops on the lens down here. None of this stuff is even measuring yet. I was just looking at the rain gauges, and at most we've got about 1/100 of an inch of rain. Let's come back to the virtual set now. When you look at it on the virtual set, there's a pretty widespread area of green on here. This is that line we were seeing, which is why it looks pretty good coming into San Francisco right now, and even down towards SFO, which would be right about here. It's just not heavy, but it's certainly enough that you're gonna, I mean, you tell just by looking at the live views, this is rain and things are going to get damp. It's not going to go like this for the rest of tonight. So what I want to do is switch this out. We're going to say goodbye to the live radar, and we're going to superimpose on here 2 time frames. We're going to break up the next chance for rain, looking at it 2 different ways. The first one is between now and midnight, because after this initial line clears out and we go through the remainder of tonight, you'll see a few light spotty showers kind of up in the North Bay. We're already looking ahead here to 8, 9 o'clock, and things are relatively quiet. But as we approach midnight, aka the technical start of Sunday, there's our timestamp down here. Now there's this new crop of somewhat more widespread rain that starts to show up. So let's take that forward now, and we'll watch the future cast from midnight through about 10 a.m. So let's start it there, picking up on that same frame. And now you'll see in the pre-dawn hours tomorrow, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., you get a few more widespread, very light showers. None of this is super intense. And by the time we get to like 9 or 10 tomorrow, it's done, which means for most of your Sunday, you don't have to worry about this. It's going to get a little more rain in the early morning hours of Sunday. And then by like 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, this pretty much comes to a close. The question comes in, could we see any more repeats of what we saw earlier today? With that next band of rain coming through, this system has proven that it's got the ability to drop a good little band of somewhat heavier rain. And we saw that happen when we were in between about 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock this afternoon. We're going back in time now. Whoops. And what we're looking at on here is the visualization of what rainfall looked like across the bay as we were between the hours of, say, 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock this afternoon. And what you saw was a little red bullseye that showed up over San Rafael. I don't anticipate that's going to happen again with this next system. And the reason why I would see that is because it just doesn't look like it's got the energy to continue doing that. Let's go to the 7-day forecast. There you go. All right. Little bit of rain here Sunday, as we saw, done by 10 a.m. What happens after that? By Monday, you clear out and you warm up. Now we're back into the mid-70s to start next week. And then the temperatures will jump into the low 80s by Wednesday. And then we'll cool back down again by next weekend. So we're not going to stay with temperatures 10 to 12 degrees above average, which is what that Wednesday is going to be. But you do have certainly an end to the rain. We're certainly finally going to see a lot more blue sky around here than we've been seeing, really by the time we get to Sunday afternoon late, and then certainly by Monday, and then probably back to more typical marine layer stuff, morning, afternoon breaks of sun. So this weird April system that's been with us, it's going to be here probably through about noon tomorrow, and then we are done with that.
Good to have you back.
Thank you very much.
Glad you're back and looking well. Thanks for watching. We will see you back here at 11.
Until then, the news continues streaming on CBS News Bay Area. Good night.